Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Elvin Freites, co-founder of the EdUp Experience, podcasting live from the World Innovation Summit for Education, WISE 2023, here in Doha, Qatar. And I am very excited to introduce my next guest, and I'm going to try my best to pronounce her name correctly. So I apologize in advance, but I'm going to try. I've done it at least 7 times, and I think I got it wrong each time. Here we go. She is Nyagaki Gichia.
Perfect.
Oh my God.
Perfect.
Yes. Okay.
Perfect,
Interview's over. We're gone. Bye-bye. and she is the Africa Hub Director at Team4Tech. How you doing?
Very well, thank you, Evan.
All right.
Yeah,
Cool.
good job on the name. Good job.
I appreciate that. Well, thanks for being here. So I want to learn all about Team4Tech. What is that? What do you do? How do you do it? Tell us all your story.
Awesome. Team4Tech is a nonprofit impact accelerator working to bridge the digital equity gap in education.
Yeah.
We work with education nonprofits working in or with students in under-resourced communities. And we partner with them for 3 to 5 years to elevate their work through technology solutions. We give them a tech grant as well. And we walk this journey with them for 5 years.
Okay. So this is all throughout Africa?
Yes. So Africa and the world. I particularly work with our Africa partners. We currently have 21 partners in Africa.
Nice.
And our global portfolio is 37 partners.
Okay.
We have hubs in Latin America, in Asia, and in North America.
Nice.
So I oversee the Africa hub.
Okay, gotcha. Yep. So break down what is like the main problem or challenge that you're trying to solve, and how are you trying to solve it? In very simple terms.
I'll try.
That maybe that's not on the website, you know?
So we're working with education nonprofits, and many of these are smaller nonprofits working in areas that don't have that many resources, whether it's like tech resources or even infrastructural resources. And we're trying to elevate their work. So many of these organizations work with thousands of learners. And these learners don't even have like the basics when it comes to, even just like food and all this.
Oh, wow.
So when it comes to education, that's even worse because, there you find classrooms that, one teacher with 100 students in the classroom, those kind of environments. We're trying to see how can we, bring them up in terms of that, bridging that digital equity gap and affording the students basically the same kind of opportunities that other students in more privileged positions have.
Got it. So you're not working directly with the schools, you're working with the nonprofits that work with the schools.
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha. So tell us about the history of the company. Like how did it come about, the idea? Tell us why, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary.
Oh, nice. Congratulations. Nice.
Thank you. And this started off with our co-founder, Julie Klugage, and her other co-founder, Laila Ibrahim, who now works with Google DeepMind. Mm-hmm. They came together to form this nonprofit. And, they realized that there's such a need for intervention and support for these nonprofits because they're doing amazing work. It's just that their work can be amplified, can be accelerated, such that they're not having to make the same mistakes over and over again, or that they're not dealing with the same things year on year. So this happened. They started this organization 10 years ago, and we have grown. I started with the organization just 2 years ago. In the beginning, it was very based. The team was US based. So it was just a core US team. And I was the first international hire about just over 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And this was to offer more support for our nonprofits on the ground, because our model was, we would partner with these nonprofits, and we also have corporate partners such as Adobe and Cadence Design
that's
Systems.
Fantastic, yeah.
And we engage the employees on a volunteer program to come, down to the ground and work with the nonprofits. But then these projects were few and far between. So you'd find that, maybe a nonprofit would be having a project a year. But, what happens the rest of the other months or the rest of the year?
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's where I came in for the Africa Hub. And I offer like continuous support with these nonprofits. I go visit them. I understand their context and kind of like able to articulate their needs better, because I'm from the continent, and it's easier for me to kind of get around. And the countries are very different, but there's still some kind of commonality in the kind of context that we're working with. So we now have built out these other hubs in Latin America and in Asia, and we're hoping to grow. Now we're trying to register Team4Tech locally as a organization on the African continent, so that I can offer even more support, and I can have a team that could go out and work with these different nonprofits even more closely.
Gotcha. Which country are you stationed in?
So I'm based in Kenya.
Kenya. Okay, got it. And so when you go out and you talk to these nonprofits, what are some of the challenges they're facing when they tell you, hey, we need some help in this specific area? Is there a common theme that's going on?
Yes. It's the biggest thing is infrastructure, and that varies from country to country depending on, and even where the nonprofit is based. Many of our nonprofits are in the rural areas that are not as developed, so they're still struggling with like lack of electricity, lack of enough teachers to teach their students. Even just the basics. So even when we're talking about like AI, it's like, oh, we don't even have computers, we don't even have electricity. So what are you talking about when you're talking about AI? But then some are further along, and with the penetration of mobile technology and mobile devices, basically, we're finding that even students now have some kind of smartphone or have access to this. So there's kind of like a disparity where a school does not have power, but their students have have access to smartphones at home that they they charge once every 2 days, or there's a charging station somewhere. So there's a lot of like disparity where there's movement in the tech ecosystem or tech scene where we need to grow, but then how do you grow when there's no power? How do you grow when security is still an issue? How do you grow when teachers don't have the skills to teach students what they're what they're supposed to learn?
Wait, you said security. What do you mean by security?
Like like actual security.
I thought you meant like
no, the places that we've set up labs, or we've tried to set up labs, and 2 weeks later all the computers are stolen.
Oh wow.
So it doesn't matter how many computers you give out, it doesn't matter how many devices you provide, if 2 weeks later
gone,
they're all gone.
Wow. How do you that's just like, this is mind. How do you even try to prevent that from happening? I mean, what do you do?
It has to be a multifaceted approach. Like, we can't do it alone. And I think we're getting to the point where everyone is realizing that this has to be, everyone has to play their part. Government has to play their part. Private institutions have to play their part. NGOs, like everyone has to rally to work on this, because it's a big problem, and it can't just be solved by one person. So even through working with our nonprofits, we are engaging government, maybe not through Team4Tech directly, but we're engaging the government through the nonprofits. Once we're saying, hey, we want to set up a lab, but then we need auxiliary services to make this lab functional so that it can then serve the community. So everyone just needs to be involved.
Wow, it has to be a team effort. Totally. So okay, we're at WISE, right? And you mentioned AI, and so at WISE we're talking about creative fluency, right? Human flourishing in the age of AI. So does AI affect your work personally and what you do?
It does, largely. Working on the African continent, I've been in a few conversations over the past 2 years that, is Africa going to be left behind? Are we, we're not. Are we not being included in this growth of AI? Where there's a lot of conversation about the data, how as African, a lot of our data is not written. So, I've just attended a session talking about AI models and all this. So where is our data as Africans also? If it's not on the internet, or if it's not online, where is AI going to then get the data to now reproduce new things? Are we just being excluded? So a lot of our work also involves documenting what we're doing, and I encourage our nonprofits, or even people I work with, to document their work, document what does Africa look like? What does Africa
electronically?
Look like?
You mean?
Yes,
right?
yes, on the internet through writing papers, that we can have the data available to then
that makes sense.
reshape what Africa could look like based on what it is right now. There's also what I talked about where you find students moving way ahead. Students are early adopters most of the time.
Yep. Oh yeah.
So you find students, and this has been the case for years, right?
Yeah.
But now you're finding with AI available, or like ChatGPT available in the palm of your hand, students are now way ahead of the teachers.
Yeah.
So the teachers are like, oh my gosh, now we need to catch up. How do I catch up? What do I need to learn? What do I do? So just recently, well, not recently, just a few months ago, I did a training with teachers in Rwanda on how to use ChatGPT for problem-based learning. Like, it's a school that uses problem-based learning, but then they were having challenges of how do I incorporate math in geography? Like how do we do that? But I was like, okay, let's try. Let's go into ChatGPT. Let's try this. Let's do a few prompts and see what we get. And they were so amazed.
Yeah.
But even at the end of that session, they were like, wait, like it clicked, and I'm like, they were like, oh wait, our students are using this. They kind of it hit them. Our students are using this. They've been talking about this ChatGPT, and I graded this the other day, and it looked very similar to this other person's work, and it didn't make sense because the students were not together.
Yeah.
But oh my gosh, it was a light bulb moment for them, and they were immediately. It was a 2-day training, and the first night, many of them went back home and were like binging on ChatGPT to see what's possible.
That's great.
Because the students are using it,
Yeah. Oh, that's great. When you talk about students, what age are we talking about?
So these particular students were high school students. So,
okay.
Grade 9 to 12.
Yeah. And most of the schools that you work with through the nonprofits, it's K to 12, like in the US, right? From kindergarten to like.
Most of them are K to 12, but we do have a few nonprofits that are working with within the workforce development area. So these are youth between the ages of 18 and 24.
Okay.
So some of our nonprofits, it's kind of like the whole spectrum between K-12 and 18 to 24, as well as we have nonprofits that are working primarily with teachers.
Okay, got it. All right. So I'm going to ask you 2 final questions.
Sure.
I'll take them one at a time. What does the future look like for Team4Tech? What do you guys got coming up in the pipeline?
Wow, nice question. So this hub model, it's really grown. It's grown to the extent where, like, we didn't think it would grow like this in 2 years. And there's just so much. We have this online community of practice where, over 800 nonprofits have joined, and
wow.
There's a lot of demand for what we have to offer.
Yeah.
And we just want to be able to offer more support on a more regional, more contextualized, more local, I don't know, local support, basically.
Got it.
So we want to build out these hubs more, and maybe. So
you're saying in different countries, not just Africa, because you're in 21 countries in Africa, so you got a few more to go. So you see, and then
we have these organizations in these 21 countries, but we don't have presence. Oh. So I want to be able to build out a hub in East Africa, a hub in West Africa, so that we can do teacher training, for example. We can run different programs for nonprofit leaders, for teachers, but that's the dream. I hope that will happen. It looks like it's happening and pretty fast.
That's great.
And there's a lot of work ahead of us.
Okay, awesome. All right, last question for you. What do you see as the future for education?
If you find someone who can answer that question, I will give them $1,000 on the spot.
I don't think ChatGPT can even answer that question.
We can try.
I know, right? What do you think, though? What's your opinion? Or what would you like to see happen? Things like that.
Yeah, I think the basis of, and I'll talk about it from the perspective of not even just Africa, but Kenya. Mm-hmm. We're just now adopting a new education system that's based on competencies, and that's a really big shift.
Cool.
compared to a
cool.
previous education system that was more based on rote memorization and just garbage in, garbage out.
Yep. Oh yeah.
In that sense, right? And now where it's this new model where it's based on competencies, and teachers are also they don't know how to test for this. How do you test for critical thinking? How do you
Yes.
test for communication? Is it that people are just talking? Is that really communication?
Yeah.
So
good point.
The role of education is changing such that it's not so much giving knowledge. I think that we're past that now, right?
Yeah.
It's developing humans as a whole, that people who can think, students who can think for themselves, who can evaluate things, who can communicate not just for the sake of it, but can communicate their ideas.
Yes.
So I think we're bringing up holistic people. We're bringing up people that can change the world. So I don't know how that will look. I don't know if students will still be learning in a classroom, for example. I know there's a few forest schools, for example, that are coming up, and we're really questioning how is it just, what is the content? How do you teach to teach critical thinking, for example? Do you have to teach in a classroom? Do you have to teach specific content? Can a child learn to think critically by just being outside and being let to roam around? So honestly, I don't know, but we need to do our best. We all need to play our part in this. And speaking as a former teacher, I was a former robotics teacher. There's a lot of questions that I'm asking myself before the age of AI and before all this competency-based learning came about. We were teaching subjects such as robotics and STEM subjects because that's how we thought critical thinking was going to be. Because kids are in a lab, they have access to tools, they can solve problems. But now you're kind of rethinking: is this the only way? Is tech the only way to do that? Probably not. There's so many other ways to do it. And, I'm excited to see different things coming up or different ways to solve this problem coming up.
Excellent. Awesome. Okay. Well, how have you enjoyed your quick EdUp experience with me?
I love it. You're an amazing host. And he did not pay me to say that.
Okay. Well, you're not going to think I'm so amazing because I'm going to try your name again. And you see I get it wrong the second time.
Okay.
But
Let's do it.
I do want to say thank you for being here. This is great. I appreciate what you're doing. And if people want to get in contact with you, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Reach me through LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
Alvin will try and say my name, but I will say it. Nyagaki Gichia on LinkedIn. You can also email me, nyagaki at team4tech.org.
Okay. Okay, got it. So, ladies and gentlemen, you just heard from Nyagaki Gichia. Perfect. Yes. She's the Africa Hub Director at Team4Tech. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much,
I really
Alvin.
appreciate your time. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, you just EdUp'd.